Knife God is the most famous bladesmith in the world, Mom, Olivia stated. They say his knives are so sharp that if you were to stab someone in the back with one, they wouldn't even feel a thing until they just stopped breathing. Victoria's eyes widened in shock. That sounds horrible and incredibly dangerous. Most of the knives he makes are for kitchen use now, and they're so coveted that most of them are literally priceless. And what's this knife god doing in Paris? Well, that's where he lives, but he's retiring, so he's hosting this mysterious, huge feast and celebration. All the best chefs from all over the world will be there. Probably all the most important families, too. Are you going? Victoria asked, trying to sound neutral. Olivia shrugged. Probably not. There's going to be so many powerful people there all vying for his attention. I'm not sure I'm ready to compete with all of them. Well, I think you should go, Victoria said, crossing her arms. It'll be after your exams, and it would be a great chance to see Millie and Wendy. Imagine it, the three of you gallivanting around Paris. Doesn't it sound like a dream? Olivia pondered her mother's words. She had to admit that the idea of Paris was incredibly enticing. Olivia's eyes started to sparkle with excitement at the thought. She hesitated for a bit and then finally expressed how much she loved the idea. Mom, that's an amazing idea. A girls' trip to Paris with Millie and Wendy would be so much fun. At first I was on the fence about it, but now I'm convinced that I have to be there. You're right. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and I can't miss it. Victoria grinned, pleased that she had convinced her daughter. That's the spirit, Olivia. You won't regret it. Plus, I'm sure Wendy will be thrilled to see you. It's the perfect chance to reconnect with your old friend. As Olivia's excitement continued to bubble over, she couldn't help but share all the exciting plans she had in mind for her Paris trip with Millie and Wendy. She described in great detail how they would explore the city, visit iconic landmarks like the Eiffel Tower, enjoy delicious French cuisine, and maybe even attend a few culinary events while they were there. As Victoria had her moment filled with emotion and pride, she was interrupted by Michael walking into the hospital room. Michael carefully set the bags of takeout food on a small table near Victoria and Olivia's hospital bed. He smiled at both of them and said, I know you weren't hungry, but I couldn't resist getting something for everyone. He continued, explaining his choice of food. Olivia, I remember you love Chinese takeout when you're not feeling well. As Victoria examined the food that Michael had brought, she was surprised to see crab wontons and honey garlic shrimp, which happened to be her personal favorites. Looking at Michael with an arched eyebrow, she remarked, You got crab wontons and honey garlic shrimp, but you hate seafood. Michael chuckled and shrugged. Well, I guess I can make an exception for my two favorite ladies. Besides, I want to bring a little piece of your favorite comfort food to brighten the room. Victoria shared a soft, appreciative smile with Michael. There was a warmth in the air, a sense of unity that had been missing for quite some time. Michael's presence in the room was a reminder of the family they still were, even after all the ups and downs. With a friendly, loving tone, Michael said, Come on, girls, let's have some food. I made plates for both of you. Michael began portioning out the Chinese takeout, distributing the crab wontons and honey garlic shrimp onto plates for Victoria and Olivia. The simple act of sharing a meal together felt like a step towards reconnecting as a family. As the night passed, Michael looked at Victoria and asked, Do you need a ride home? His voice filled with a gentle, caring tone. Victoria smiled, grateful for Michael's consideration. No, I'll stay with Olivia tonight, she replied. But thank you for being here. You've done enough. Go home. Get some rest. Michael hesitated, wanting to stay and make sure both his girls were okay. But he also understood that Victoria needed this time with Olivia. With a hint of a smile, he said, All right, if you're sure. Victoria chuckled playfully and gave him a little push towards the door. Go on, you've done your good deed for the day, she teased. We'll be fine. Reluctantly, Michael headed for the door, casting one last look back at Olivia and Victoria before he left the hospital room. Olivia looked at her mother, her eyes filled with warmth and gratitude. "Mom, what do you want to do for the rest of the night?" she asked, her voice soft. Victoria looked down at her daughter, her expression filled with love. "Honestly, Liv, I just want to make sure you're okay," she replied, gently brushing a strand of hair away from Olivia's face. A soft smile played on Olivia's lips as she leaned closer to her mother, resting her head on Victoria's shoulder. She took her mother's hand in hers, their fingers intertwining, and looked into her eyes. "Mom," she began, her voice tender, "there's something I want to talk to you about." Victoria turned her full attention to Olivia. "You can talk to me about anything. What is it?" Olivia hesitated, not sure where to start. "It's about Chris." Victoria nodded knowingly, trying not to betray any hint of emotion. "What about Chris? Did something happen between the two of you?" "No, nothing like that. I just can't figure out my feelings for him. On the one hand, I really like him. Like, I can't believe how much I like him. I catch myself thinking about him all the time." Victoria gave a small smirk. "I've been there, Olivia." Olivia continued. "On the other hand, there are so many times when he just gets completely under my skin. He can be so irritating at times." Victoria maintained her understanding expression, encouraging Olivia to share her thoughts. "Go on, Liv. It's okay to feel this way." Olivia hesitated for a moment before revealing the deeper layer of her thoughts. "And sometimes," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I don't feel like I should like him. It's like he's forbidden or something." Olivia's words stopped, but her thoughts kept going. "I can't shake the feeling that it's wrong to like Chris, especially while I'm in this body. When Chris looks at me, he just sees a normal teenage girl. He has no idea who I really am. It feels wrong to want to be with him, but it also feels really nice." Victoria was oblivious to the real reasons Olivia felt so conflicted. Instead, she just gave Olivia an understanding smile. She remembered what it was like to have feelings for someone at that age. "Sweetie," she began gently, "I think Chris is a kind young man. He went out of his way to make sure you got to the hospital today, and that says a lot about his character." She reached out to tenderly brush a strand of hair from Olivia's face. "Your feelings are valid, Olivia. Sometimes they can be confusing, but it's okay to like someone. Relationships can be complicated, and they do take time and effort. With time, things will become clearer." Olivia nodded, her expression a mix of gratitude and uncertainty. "Thanks, Mom. I appreciate your advice." While she still felt conflicted about Chris, having her mother's support and understanding meant a lot to her. Across the rainy city of New York, Rachel stormed through the Johnson home, her anger boiling over. She still couldn't believe that Michael was divorcing her, and it fueled her fury. She ignored the incessant calls from Michael's driver, Ansel. All he wanted was divorce papers that Rachel refused to sign. Rachel slammed cabinets in the kitchen, making her frustration loud and clear. "This is just unbelievable. After all these years, he thinks he can just walk away like that?" Rachel exclaimed, her voice filled with anger. She continued to rummage through the cabinets, her frustration building. "I can't believe he'd do this to me, especially after everything I've done for him." Rachel was on a rampage, finding every little thing in the house to be mad at since she couldn't be mad at Michael directly. She'd already vented her fury at the poor kitchen cabinets when Monica burst into the room, her eyes welling up with tears. Rachel, momentarily taken aback by the sight of her crying daughter, couldn't help but lose some of her rage. "Monica, darling, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" Monica sniffed dramatically and wiped away tears. "Oh, Mom, it's Olivia. She's a monster, a bona fide bully. She's ruined my entire life." Rachel raised a perfectly arched eyebrow. "Darling, I know Olivia can be a handful, but ruined your life?" Monica nodded fervently. "Yes, it's like she's got a vendetta against me. She's out to destroy me, I just know it." Rachel sighed, trying to keep a straight face despite her daughter's theatrics. All right, darling, spill it. What did Olivia do now that's thrown you into such a tizzy? Monica, her eyes still brimming with fake tears, gasped for air as she blurted out her tale of humiliation. Mom, it's Olivia. She's a total nightmare. She promised me a spot in the school play, but guess what she did? She made me a stupid concessions girl. It was mortifying. Rachel's perfectly painted lips curled into a look of shock and disgust. That devious little diva. Just like your father backstabbing to get what she wants. A divorce. Monica looked at Rachel with confusion in her eyes. Divorce? What? Rachel shook her head and focused her attention back on Monica. Oh, nothing. Continue, dear. Monica nodded, her tears turning into a cold and dark scowl. She sniffled and wiped away the remaining tears. I can't let Olivia get away with treating me like this. She's crossed the line. Rachel leaned in, her voice dropping into a conspiratorial tone. Darling, here's what we'll do. You need to even the score. Show Olivia she can't mess with us. A wicked grin spread across Monica's face. Oh, Mom, I'm already a step ahead of you. I have a plan. Rachel, always ready for a bit of scheming, leaned in closer. Tell me, darling, what's your grand plan? I'm gonna kill her, Monica answered with conviction. Rachel was surprised at Monica's answer. She didn't think Monica would want to take it that far. Well, sweetheart, you can't kill her. Your grandfather won't let that happen. Monica thought for a moment as she grew angrier. Olivia had to die. It was the only way. Monica looked at Rachel with a face of steel and said, Then I'll kill him too. Rachel's perfectly lined eyebrows shot up in shock, and she couldn't help but gasp at Monica's words about her grandpa. She took a step back, her mouth hanging open as she asked, Monica, do you even understand what you're saying? This is incredibly dangerous and I won't have any part in it. But Monica's eyes seemed to change, taking on a cold, dark, and almost distant appearance, like she was lost in her rage. Monica looked at Rachel and said, Mom, it's the only way to make Olivia pay for what she's done to me. And besides, if he stays out of my way, nothing has to happen to him. Rachel shook her head adamantly, her eyes filled with disbelief. Monica, I won't hear you talk like that again. You're not going to harm your Grandpa Jack or anyone else for that matter. There must be another way to deal with Olivia. Monica's internal dialogue was a whirlwind of confusion and anger. She thought, my mom's right. How can I say something like that? I'm not a bad person or even a killer. I'm just so mad at Olivia. Rachel could see the turmoil in her daughter's eyes and the sudden shift in her demeanor. She walked over to Monica and put a comforting hand on her shoulder. Monica, I know you're angry, but you can't let it consume you like this. What Olivia did was wrong, and we'll find a way to deal with it. Taking her mother's advice to heart, Monica nodded, realizing how irrational her previous thoughts were. You're right, Mom. I'm just so frustrated, and I don't know how to handle it. Rachel could see that the stress of the day had clearly taken a toll on Monica. She gently told her daughter, You should lie down and get some rest, Monica. You've been through a lot today, and some sleep will help you feel better. Monica nodded in agreement, realizing that her mother was right. Yeah, you're right, Mom. I need some rest to clear my head. Thanks for understanding. Rachel smiled and patted Monica's shoulder. Of course, sweetheart. I'll be right here if you need anything. Get some rest and we'll figure out how to handle this situation tomorrow. Monica dragged her feet upstairs. She couldn't get Olivia off of her mind as she walked into her room. Monica slammed her bedroom door shut. Alone in her room, she began to mutter to herself, unable to contain her anger. Oh, Olivia, she said, rolling her eyes. The world must revolve around her, because why else would she be so utterly annoying. Honestly, it's a talent, how she manages to irritate me every single day. Monica paced around her room, her tone dripping with sarcasm. I mean, it's not like I have better things to do than deal with her nonsense. Nope, she's the queen and we're all just her subjects, I guess. She clenched her fists and put on an exaggerated mocking tone. Oh, look at me, Olivia. I'm so perfect and charming. What a joke. I'll show her that I'm the one to be messed with. I'm just as smart and as talented as she is. No, scratch that. I'm smarter and prettier than her. A scowl crossed her face as she muttered to herself. But for some reason, Olivia always wins. This time, though, things are going to be different. Monica smirked, determined to outsmart her sister once and for all. Monica flopped down on her bed and stared at the ceiling, frustration bubbling within her. Thoughts of Olivia swirled through her mind like a never-ending storm, and she couldn't shake them. With a heavy sigh, she reached for her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in a while. As the phone rang and rang, Monica's nerves grew. She couldn't help but wonder if she was making the right move, but she was determined to see her plan through. The mysterious girl answered the phone with a soft, "Hello?" Monica wasted no time and launched into a rant, her frustration pouring out. You won't believe what happened. Olivia ruined my plan to be in the play. I can't stand her. It's like she has this magical power to mess up everything I do. The girl on the other end of the line urged, Calm down, Monica. Take a deep breath and tell me what happened. Monica sighed and began to explain her frustration. So I tried to play nice with Olivia. You know, act like her best friend and all that. But she still managed to ruin everything. She stopped me from being in the play and I was stuck selling concessions like some loser. Monica, frustrated and desperate, asked the girl, What should I do? I'm so tired of Olivia winning all the time. The girl on the other end paused briefly before responding. Olivia's a tough cookie to crack, but you can't beat her one-on-one. Monica rolled her eyes and replied, I know that, but what's your point? The girl continued, I told you before, Monica. The only way to beat Olivia is to create your own circle. You need allies, people who will support you. Trust me, it's the only way. The girl on the other end advised, Monica, you need to distance yourself from Olivia completely. You can't have any connection with her until you have your own group of people who truly support and admire you. Monica sighed, but it's impossible to stay away from Olivia. She's the most famous person in school and everyone's always talking about her. The girl countered, There has to be some loners in your school, Monica. People who are so isolated that they hardly even think about Olivia. Monica paused for a moment, mulling over the suggestion. Her expression shifted from frustration to contemplation as she pondered the idea. You know, she finally replied, there are these random groups of loners at my school, lurking in corners and stuff. But honestly, hanging out with them? That's not exactly my thing. The mysterious girl's voice remained patient as she encouraged Monica. Sometimes you've got to step out of your comfort zone, Monica. Befriending the loners can help you build a reputation for kindness and generosity, not to mention forming your own army of misfits to challenge Olivia. It's a long game, but it's worth it. The girl continued, her voice tinged with confidence. And here's the bonus, Monica. Befriending the loners will only make you seem like a kind and compassionate person, but it'll also give you their unwavering support. You can build your own group of peers, a loyal troop of allies who will stand by you when you decide to take on Olivia. Monica whined. Do I really have to do this? The girl sneered and told Monica, Well, you can choose not to, and then you'll remain unnoticed, unlike your sister Olivia. It's entirely your choice. The girl continued, If you follow this plan, you'll win over the hearts of the entire school and dethrone Olivia as the most popular girl. Monica nodded, determination gleaming in her eyes. All right, I'll do it. The mysterious girl grinned. "We won't lose to Olivia, Monica. I lost to no one." Tall trees surrounded a cabin, their branches forming a natural fortress, shielding the cabin from the outside world. The mysterious girl ended the call, and the rustic cabin silence enveloped her. She made her way to the living area, where the walls were plastered with hundreds of pictures of Olivia. The mysterious girl's eyes gleamed with a sinister fascination as she examined the pictures of Olivia's life. The snapshots captured Olivia in various moments, laughing, walking, and even her moments of solitude with her dog, Polly. It was evident that this girl had been watching Olivia for a long period of time, her obsession growing with each passing day. A wicked smile crept across her face as she clutched the pictures, her fingers tightening around each one. She muttered under her breath, "Oh, Olivia, you're becoming more and more interesting every day." The following day at Marshall High was a picturesque one, with the sun shining brilliantly over the campus. Olivia entered the school, perfectly reflecting the sunny weather. Her health had completely rebounded, and she was positively glowing, both in terms of her radiant appearance and her chipper attitude. As Olivia walked through the vibrant school courtyard, several of her fellow students couldn't help but break into warm smiles when they saw her. They eagerly approached her, expressing their happiness at her recovery. "Olivia, you look fantastic. So glad you're feeling better," one of the students exclaimed, their grin as bright as the morning sun. "Absolutely, it's great to see you back on your feet," another chimed in. Olivia graciously thanked each of her well-wishers, her heart warmed by the outpouring of support from her classmates. As Olivia continued her stroll through the school courtyard, a few more students approached her, their expressions brimming with concern and affection. "Olivia, I made you a get-well-soon card. Did you get it?" one of them inquired with a hopeful look. Another student chimed in, "I hope my card brightened up your day, Olivia. Did you like it?" Olivia's smile grew even wider as she replied, "Yes, I received all your cards, and they truly made my day. Thank you so much for thinking of me." Olivia felt genuinely happy to be back at school, basking in the warmth of her classmates. As Olivia walked down the bustling school hallway after her first period class, she felt a sudden yet familiar presence at her side. She turned her head in surprise, only to find Millie swiftly sliding up next to her and gently grabbing her hand. Olivia's initial shock transformed into happiness as she felt Millie's hand in hers. "Millie, I didn't expect to see you so soon," Olivia replied. However, as they continued walking together towards the cafeteria, Olivia noticed a hint of concern in Millie's eyes, and she couldn't help but wonder if something was on her friend's mind. Olivia's eyebrows furrowed as she expressed her concern for their friend. "What are you worried about, Millie?" Millie took a deep breath before replying. "Lena's been acting really weird lately. She's been distant, not joining our conversations, and she's always in a hurry to leave school. I tried talking to her, but she just brushed me off. It's not like her, Liv." Olivia turned her gaze towards the cafeteria and spotted Lena sitting alone, her distant expression a stark contrast to her usual lively self. "Look at Lena," Olivia remarked to Millie, nudging her gently. "She does seem a bit strange today, doesn't she?" Millie nodded, her concern deepening. "You have no idea, Liv. She didn't eat dinner last night. She didn't even touch her video games, and you know how much she loves those." Olivia contemplated the situation and said, "I think we should ask her what's been going on. Maybe she doesn't want to reach out for help herself." Millie nodded in agreement. Just then, they noticed Lena making her way to the rooftop. Millie and Olivia exchanged glances, and without a word, they followed her to the roof, determined to get to the bottom of what was troubling their friend. Lena stood alone on the rooftop, gazing at the New York skyline, lost in her own thoughts. The rooftop door creaked open, and she heard her name. She turned to see Olivia and Millie approaching. Lena's initial shock at their presence quickly turned into a forced smile as she greeted them. "Hey, Olivia, Millie," she said, but her voice lacked its usual warmth. as she continued to look away, as if trying to hide her inner turmoil. Millie, concerned and with a furrowed brow, leaned in, saying, "Hey, Lena, you've been kind of distant lately. Is something up?" Lena hesitated briefly, but decided to confide in her friends, admitting, "Well, there's this someone, and I think I might be into them." Olivia and Millie exchanged wide-eyed glances. Their curiosity piqued and turned their attention back to Lena. Lena took a step back, a blush spreading across her cheeks. "I mean, I'm not even sure if I like them. It's just complicated." Olivia playfully teased, "Oh, who's the person that you might like?" She grinned, genuinely interested. Millie joined in, her smile warm. "Come on, Lena, spill the beans. Who's got your heart fluttering?" Lena looked down and mumbled, "I can't say." Millie's face showed a hint of realization. She hesitated, but finally asked, "Is it Francis?" Internally, Olivia couldn't help but think, Millie can't like Francis, right? Olivia couldn't help but notice Lena's reaction when Francis' name came up. Lena's face turned bright red, and she seemed to get lost in thought about Francis. Olivia let out a gasp, quite surprised. Lena stammered, I was shocked too. How can I like Francis?" She looked utterly flustered. Millie and Olivia exchanged a amused smile at Lena's visible distress. Millie reassured Lena. "It's okay to be shocked by your own feelings, Lena. You can't control who you like." Lena pouted and admitted, "But I don't like liking people. I don't like the uncertainty and the feeling of vulnerability." Olivia emphasized, "I know what you mean. I'm scared to like someone too, like Chris." Lena softened and smiled at her friends, grateful for their understanding. She then asked, "So, what should I do about my crush on Francis?" Millie inquired, "Do you want to tell him you like him?" Lena shrugged, appearing unsure. "I'm not sure. I've been putting him in the friend zone because I was so uncertain about my feelings for him. Now I'm scared he won't believe me." Olivia encouraged her. "You should show him that you like him." Lena sighed. "But how? I have no clue how to show a boy that I like him. We only play video games together. How am I supposed to let him know I like him?" Millie smiled and said, "That's easy. You both love video games. Use that shared interest to get close to him. Play video games with him, have fun, and when the time is right, tell him you really like him as more than just a friend." Lena was taken aback by the simplicity of the plan and was hesitant about it. Lena looked at Millie and Olivia with a questioning gaze. "Do you really think playing a video game is a good way to tell Francis I like him?" she asked. Olivia was excited and assured Lena, "Yes, absolutely. It's a great way to get close to him." She explained her plan. Just choose a game that you haven't played or pretend that you don't know how to play it. Boys love to help girls with stuff, so you can act like you can't play a game and he can teach you how to play it. Lena looked at Olivia with uncertainty and admitted, "But I know how to play every game. Everyone in New York knows I'm the best video game player in the city, maybe even the state." Millie nodded in agreement with Lena, adding, "Olivia, you've seen Lena play video games at our apartment. There's no way Francis will believe she can't play a game." Olivia rolled her eyes playfully and said, "Fine, we'll think of something else. Lena, can you just ask Francis what game he likes right now?" Lena looked uncertain, but Olivia couldn't help but laugh at her friend's hesitation. "All right, we'll figure it out," she said. As Olivia, Millie, and Lena strolled into school, Lena couldn't help but share her thoughts. She turned to her friends with a playful smile and asked, "So what do you think about Francis? Could he be the one for me?" Millie, always the optimist, replied with infectious enthusiasm, "Lena girl, he's like the perfect match for you. I mean, come on, you both geek out over video games, and that's just the start. You two are practically a match made in gaming heaven." Olivia joined in the fun, adding with a chuckle, "Yeah, Millie's right. You and Francis would be like the dynamic duo of gaming couples. It's practically destiny." They embraced in a tight group hug, and Lena couldn't help but blush. Lena, still processing her feelings, asked, "But what if he's not into me? What if I mess things up?" Millie reassured her. "Don't worry, Lena. Francis would be crazy not to see how awesome you are." Olivia nodded in agreement. "Absolutely, you've got this, Lena, and we've got your back." With renewed confidence, they continued their journey to class, their laughter echoing through the halls. Olivia, Millie, Lena, and Francis were all hanging out with other students after lunch. They casually mingled, enjoying the company of their peers. As Olivia and Millie observed, they noticed Francis talking to some other students. They exchanged knowing glances and nudged Lena playfully, trying to get her attention. Olivia whispered, nudging Lena, "Hey, Lena, why don't you go talk to Francis?" Lena glanced at Francis and then back at her friends, shaking her head softly in response. Millie chimed in, whispering, "Come on, Lena, you can do it. He's just a guy after all." But Lena shook her head again, this time whispering to Olivia and Millie, "He's too cute, guys. I can't do it." Millie chimed in with a dreamy look in her eyes. "Oh, Lena, but it's so worth it. Romance seems like the best feeling in the world." Lena awkwardly smiled at Millie. Romance was never something Lena thought about much, but the idea of it did give her butterflies. Olivia's eyes lit up as she glanced at her friends. "All right, ladies, time for my wingwoman duties," she said with a playful grin. Lena and Millie exchanged puzzled looks until Olivia called out to Francis, "Hey, Francis, over here." Francis turned and approached the girls with a warm smile. "Hey, what's up?" Olivia leaned in a bit closer, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "So, Francis, tell us, what kind of video games are you really into these days?" Francis's eyes sparkled as he enthusiastically replied, "You know, lately I've been diving deep into single-player games. There's just something about the immersive stories and challenges that draw me in. And don't even get me started on VR games." Olivia leaned in with genuine curiosity, her eyebrows raised. "VR games? Those are so intense." Francis's hands animatedly moved as he spoke. "Oh yeah, it's a whole new level of immersion. In the single-player games, you move through each world strategizing on how to beat missions and unravel the story. But in VR, it's like you're actually in the world. Every decision feels like it has real stakes, and the adrenaline rush is insane." As Lena discreetly watched Francis from the corner of her eye, she noticed how his face lit up when he talked about gaming, his gestures full of passion and enthusiasm. It made her heart flutter seeing this side of him. Olivia, playing the interested friend, teased, "Sounds like you're training for some secret spy mission or something." Francis laughed. "You know, sometimes it feels that way. In the VR world, everything feels so tangible. From the weight of a weapon in your hand to the wind brushing against your face. It's like living a double life. And each time I'm pulled out, it takes a moment to adjust back to reality." Lena's eyes softened as she watched him, her smile growing with each word he spoke. She could imagine him, headset on, lost in a world of dragons or futuristic cities, living out grand adventures. She felt a warmth in her chest, an innocent admiration, akin to a schoolgirl with her first crush. Francis, realizing he might have been rambling, blushed a bit. "Sorry, I can get a bit carried away talking about this." Olivia waved him off. "No worries. It's refreshing to see someone so passionate about their interests." Lena chimed in, her voice slightly hesitant but genuine. "Yeah, it's really nice to see." Francis glanced at Lena, their eyes meeting briefly. There was a short, charged silence before he replied, "Thanks, Lena. That means a lot coming from you." Sensing that her work here was done, Olivia discreetly nudged Millie before announcing, "Oh, shoot, I think I dropped my favorite pen somewhere. Millie, will you come with me to find it?" "Oh, I can help," Lena offered quickly, but Millie interrupted. No, Lena, you stay. I'll help Olivia." The two girls rushed off, glancing over their shoulder as Francis began to ask Lena questions about her own gaming experience. The two continued conversing, finding common ground in unexpected areas like favorite movies and hobbies, and even discussing the quirky behaviors of pets. The atmosphere was light, punctuated by moments of shared laughter and curiosity. From a short distance, Olivia and Millie exchanged knowing glances. They watched as sparks seemed to fly between Frances and Lena, their initial awkwardness given way to a genuine connection. The two friends shared a silent smile, knowing they'd played a small part in bringing the two gamers together. As the late afternoon sun cast a warm golden hue on the school's hallways, Olivia, Lena, and Millie made their way to Adam's class, their steps lit with excitement. "So, Lena," Olivia nudged her playfully, "how was your heart-to-heart with Frances?" Millie chimed in, "Yeah, spill the beans. Did sparks fly?" Lena rolled her eyes but couldn't hide her smile. "It was fun talking to him. He's easy to talk to, though he still makes me so nervous." The three friends giggled, a mix of nerves and excitement. Millie leaned in closer to Lena. "It's so adorable how much you like Frances." Before Lena could reply, they entered the classroom and took their seats among the other students, settling in for the lesson. Suddenly, the door burst open, and Adam strode in with an unmatched enthusiasm. "Good afternoon, talented seniors." The energy in the room immediately lifted, as students perked up at Adam's entrance. "Olivia," Adam began with a warm smile, "I'm thrilled to see you're feeling better. Being sick is no fun." Olivia beamed. "Thanks, Adam, feeling much better now." Adam's gaze then shifted to Millie. "And speaking of talent, that Little Red Riding Hood play was phenomenal. Olivia, your direction was outstanding, and Millie, what a performance. I never imagined Little Red Riding Hood could have so much depth." Olivia and Millie blushed at the praise, squeezing each other's hands tightly. Addressing the entire class, Adam continued, "Honestly, all of you made that play the most impressive performance I've ever seen from any senior class. As a token of appreciation, how about a pizza party for everyone?" Cheers erupted throughout the room, students clapping and hooting in excitement. Adam chuckled. "I'll leave it to our star director and lead actor, Olivia and Millie, to choose a location. But remember," he added with a mock stern look, "I'm footing the bill for the pizzas, so don't get too carried away." A voice from the back of the class shouted, "Get ready, Adam, we're ordering every pizza they have." Laughter echoed throughout the room as students joined in with playful banter about how many pizzas they'd consume. Adam laughed along, his jovial spirit infectious. After the laughter subsided, Adam raised his hand, signaling for attention. All right, the fun's over for now. Let's get to today's work." Later that afternoon, Lena rushed home after school and went straight to her desk to fire up her computer. She had been thinking all day about the character she would create to entice Frances. She knew that every single evening, Frances came home and immediately got his homework out of the way. Then he would finish his daily chores and eat dinner with his family, so that when it was finally time to log into his favorite virtual gaming world, he wouldn't have to think about any real-world issues. This gave Lena just enough time to create a new avatar for herself that would be perfect for Frances, but also would appear to have been part of the game for a while. She wanted Frances to be attracted to the person he thought was behind this character. But most importantly, she didn't want him to ever find out that it was her. At exactly 7 p.m. that evening, Lena led her new character to the magical banyan tree she knew Frances usually spawned at each night. Just as she expected, the character Frances had created, with the username Frances Poole, appeared. Lena had tried to be crafty with her name, coming up with something that was true enough to herself without giving away her real identity. In the end, she decided to go with the name Gamer Bunny Girl, reminiscent enough of her actual gamer name without giving too much away. When Frances logged on that night, he wasn't planning to partake in any kind of multiplayer missions. But when he saw a girl avatar, with a pretty high level for such a new player under her belt, he had to admit he was intrigued. Lena took a deep breath, working up her courage. Then press the right keys on her keyboard in order to move her avatar closer to Francis. "Hi, I'm Gamer Bunny Girl. What's your name?" Lena typed into her computer. Her heart raced as she watched the bubble appear above Francis's character that indicated he was typing. "I'm Francis Poole. Nice to meet you," he responded, and then the bubble appeared again. After a moment, Francis continued, "Have you played this game before? I can see from your stats that you're new, but you have a decent score already." Lena swallowed. She hoped she didn't give herself away by getting too high of a level too quickly. "I played a lot of similar role-player games in the past, but this is my first time in this video games world." She thought that was reasonable enough of an explanation. "Actually, I was looking for someone to team up on one of the multiplayer missions. Would you be interested?" Lena watched as the thought bubble appeared, then disappeared, then reappeared once more. "Sure, I'm down," Francis finally answered, and Lena smiled to herself. Her plan was working exactly as she had planned. She spent the next half hour following Francis's lead, trying to show off her skills without outshining him. There were only so few players who could play computer games at Lena's level. She knew it would clearly give her away if she didn't try to fail a bit. Besides, she was really just there for the chat. She and Francis discussed all kinds of things as they worked their way through the specific mission. Collecting coins in order to buy a broadsword somehow led to a conversation about Francis's 6th birthday party. Stopping at the local pub in the village square to ask an old wizard for advice led Lena to type to Francis about her love of scotched eggs and her last trip to England. Slowly but surely, Lena was learning more and more about her crush, and finding she liked him better and better with each new tidbit. Hours passed as Lena, masquerading behind Gamer Bunny Girl, freely chatted and flirted with Francis through her computer. She had completely lost track of the time when Millie entered with a plate of cut-up veggies and hummus. "Hey, Lena, you never came out for dinner. I thought you could use something." Millie put the plate next to Lena's keyboard, slightly worried for her friend. She knew how obsessed Lena could get with her gaming, and didn't want her to neglect her health over it. "Okay, thanks, Millie," Lena said absent-mindedly. "I've been so involved talking to Francis that I completely forgot about eating." "Oh," Millie excitedly took a seat next to Lena, looking over her shoulder at the game. "And how's it going?" "Pretty good," Lena answered without taking her eyes off the computer screen. "We just got past the Fairy Kingdom, and now we're making our way to the 11th Night Village in order to capture the secret manuscripts from the village elders." Millie stared at her friend blankly for a moment, watching as Lena's fingers flew adeptly over the keyboard. "But I mean, how are things going with Francis?" Millie pushed. After all, that was the entire point of Lena playing with a new character tonight. "Oh," Lena said, her cheeks flushing pink. "I guess it's going pretty well. I'm learning a lot about him that I never knew before." Lena slammed her fingertips against the keyboard as some kind of monster character ran towards her on the screen. "Yes!" Lena shouted, startling Millie in her seat. A thought bubble appeared over Francis's character, and a moment later his text appeared. "Great job, Gamer Bunny Girl. You really are a natural at this. I wish we had met eons ago." Millie watched as Lena's lips curled up into a shy smile. "It seems like we're really getting along well." Lena turned to Millie. "I think the two of us would be compatible in real life as well." Millie frowned then. She knew that this was the only way Lena felt comfortable talking to Francis right now. But it wasn't a sustainable option if they did not want to one day enter into a real relationship. "Yeah, but doesn't it bother you that he thinks you are actually someone else?" Millie couldn't help but point out the obvious to her friend. "What do you mean?" Lena wrinkled her eyebrows. Millie had already known she was going to do this and had been fairly supportive. Why was she suddenly changing tunes like this? "I just am not sure this is such a good idea anymore." Millie watched the screen as Francis's character threw a sword at Lena's character. "I think it's great that you're getting to learn more about Francis, but don't you think Francis should get the same opportunity to learn more about you?" He is, Lena stated matter-of-factly. We've been pretty equal in our chatting. Millie rolled her eyes. Her friend really wasn't understanding. Right, and I get that, but at the end of the day, Francis thinks you're just some stranger, and you're not. Lena's fingers froze for a moment. She had to admit, she hadn't really thought about this plan through all the way. But it felt good right now to be able to talk to Francis so comfortably. She didn't understand why Millie had to ruin it for her like this. I just don't want you to get in too deep into this imaginary world and forget what the reality of the situation is, Millie explained, seeing she had upset her friend. I know, Lena sighed. One day she would have to confront her feelings for Francis to his face. But for today, this felt a lot easier. Another bubble appeared above Francis's character's head. There's a big meetup at the Windbell Pavilion for a release of new weaponry. Would you like to join me? What's the Windbell Pavilion? Millie asked, squinting at the text. She didn't understand any of Lena's games, but she did enjoy watching Lena from time to time and would attempt to follow along herself. It's one of the biggest meetup locations in this world, Lena explained to Millie. Tonight, the game creators are holding a special kind of release party, and all of the most famous gamers are going to be there to try to steal the new weapons they're debuting before anyone else. Lena typed in a flirty answer to Francis's request and hit send, then turned to Millie, beaming. It's kind of a huge deal that Francis asked me to join him. Okay. No matter how hard she tried, Millie would never really understand how asking anyone to do anything in a fake world would be construed as special, but she didn't want to ruin the moment for her friend. Lena pressed a button on her computer that made the whole screen whirl into a kind of glittery spiral. Oh, what's that? Millie leaned forward, fascinated by the graphics of the game. Francis and I are transporting now to the Windbell Pavilion. Lena leaned back in her chair, stretching out her fingers, happy for a break while she waited for her characters to arrive at the next location. It's technically in a different dimension than the one we were just in, so we had to open a wormhole to get there. After about 30 more seconds of the swirling, Lena and Francis's characters appeared back on stage in a new location with what seemed to be about 200 other characters. Wow, that's a lot of people, Millie exclaimed. She couldn't believe there could really be this many all online doing the same thing at the same time. Yep. Lena had already been expecting this and therefore wasn't surprised in the least. This event has been talked about for weeks on the message boards. I honestly thought more people would be here. What are those? Millie pointed up to the top of the computer screen. Inside the game, there appeared to be characters very similar to Lena's and Francis's, but these had some kind of mechanical wings and floated above the other players. Lena scoffed. Those are a new feature they added recently. If you have a pair of wings, it can help you to get out of certain situations with some of the final bosses, but you have to pay something like $7,000 for a pair. What? Millie's eyes bugged out of her head. Like 7,000 real American dollars? Yep, Lena shrugged. She knew it sounded crazy to someone like Millie, but Lena herself had spent ridiculous amounts of money on these kinds of games. Most of the people you see them with are top gamers, some of them way higher than even me or Francis. Lena pointed to one such character. See that guy? Millie nodded, squinting at the screen again. It was hard to actually differentiate all these tiny computerized creatures, but she thought she could pick out which one Lena was referring to. That's this player named Greatest Knife Master. He's like maybe the greatest ranked player in the world. Lena went on. Wow, do you know him personally? Millie asked. She still didn't understand how much of this game was solitary and how much involved socializing with the community. I mean, I've never met him in real life, but we've talked a lot in the game. Lena smirked then. But he's a total chinabio. Lena laughed to herself. Millie once again stared at her friend blankly. She hated when Lena would act condescending about things Millie didn't know anything about. Lena, you know I have no clue what you're talking about. Oh, sorry. Lena cleared her throat. A chinabio is like a Japanese term. It refers to people who act like they've got some kind of secret powers or insider knowledge that no one else knows about. Oh, Millie said, staring at the character in the game. You know who I feel could be a little bit of a chunibyo? Millie asked, grinning at Lena. Who? Lena asked curiously. She wasn't used to Millie gossiping, but loved the opportunity to have little secrets with her friend. Olivia, Millie answered, sending both of them into a fit of giggles. Lena quickly stopped giggling with Millie when she looked back at her video game and saw Frances's character had begun walking away from her. As Gamer Bunny Girl, she followed Frances's character through the throng of other avatars that had gathered at the Windbell Pavilion for the game's big new weapon release. Another speech bubble popped up above Frances's character's head. Okay, Gamer Bunny Girl. Things are going to move pretty fast and people are going to try to attack. Be prepared to get hurt. Lena bit her lip as she typed away. Suddenly, her own speech bubble appeared above her character. That's okay. I can handle it. Sometimes I even like a little pain. She threw in a winky face emoji at the end, really sending her point across. Millie squinted her eyes to read the speech bubble, then hit Lena gently on the arm. Oh my God, Lena, that's so forward. Lena giggled at her friend's prudishness. What? Who says it's true? Lena smirked at Millie, who rolled her eyes in response. You're such a flirt, Millie teased. But at least you're being braver here than you have been in real life. Millie poked her friend in the rib. Now you just need to apply that bravery when you see Frances in school. On the other side of the city, Frances sat in his pitch-black room, leaning forward at his desk and staring into his computer. He had logged into his gaming console just like he did every night, expecting to play a solo match tonight. What he hadn't expected was that he would meet someone new when he logged on tonight, and especially hadn't expected that someone to be a cute girl. Well, admittedly, Frances didn't actually know if Gamer Bunny Girl was cute. For all he knew, she could actually be an 80-year-old man who was just trying to catfish him. But she sounded cute. She was also a good conversationalist, and Frances found himself telling her things about his life he had never told anyone on a gaming site before. In fact, they seemed to have so much in common that it almost felt like they already knew each other. That's why when Gamer Bunny Girl began flirting with Frances, he felt himself start to stir. That's why when the door to Frances's room flew open and he heard his mother's high-pitched voice, he practically jumped out of his seat. Francie! His mother called out as she stepped into the room, tripping over his backpack that he had dropped in the entranceway as soon as he had entered. She let out a shriek so loud you would think she had just lost a limb. Oh my God, why is it so dark in here? She flicked the switch on and the room flooded with light, causing Frances to reflexively block his eyes with his forearm. Mom, he screeched, you made me lose my place in the game. Frances scrambled at the keyboard to get back to what he had been doing before his mother interrupted. And don't call me Francie. It's bad enough you named your male son Francis, he muttered under his breath. Don't talk to your mother like that. Frances's mom clutched at her necklace for dramatic effect. And besides, Francis is a very manly name. Sinatra's real name was Francis, you know. Francis just shook his head and kept his focus on the screen. He had set himself up for this. He knew his mother was always dramatic. He didn't know why he bothered trying to argue with her. It was his own fault for getting into these situations. Finally, his mother gave up. She sighed and crossed her arms across her chest. Well, fine, Francis. You can ignore me all you want, but I came in here to tell you that your father and I are sending you to Paris next week for your grandfather's best friend's birthday. At this, Francis swiveled around in his chair, completely losing track of where he was in the game and letting his character take a beating from one of the more advanced players. What? No way, I'm not going to Paris next week. Especially not for some old guy I don't even know. Your father and I have already bought you a ticket. It's done, Frances's mother said nonchalantly as she folded a pair of trousers Frances had thrown onto his bed. You didn't even ask me. Frances was practically sputtering now, This was so like his parents to just plan his life without him. What if I had plans? His mother laughed as if this were the most ludicrous suggestion in the world. What plans could you possibly have? Meeting up with your imaginary friends in your video game world? Francis clenched his fist. His mother never understood him, and it was clear to him that she would never bother to try. Just then, Francis's father walked through the hallway, past Francis's open door. Oh, good, your father can weigh in on this. Francis's mother poked her head out of the bedroom door, shouting down the hallway. Honey, can you please come in here and talk to your son? He's being completely unreasonable. Francis could hear his father sigh before turning around to enter the room. What's up, kiddo? Francis's dad smiled at him, and he could see how exhausted the man was. Mom says I have to go to Paris next week, but she didn't even ask me if A, I'm available to go. Francis started, but his mother interjected here. You don't want to do this favor for your grandfather? You know he could die any day now. Is this how you want him to remember you? You don't want to do this favor for your grandfather? You know he could die any day now. Is this how you want him to remember you? Francis's mother loved to try and use guilt as a tactic to get Francis to do anything. But he was far too used to this method now to let it work on him. If it's so important to Grandpa, why don't you go to Paris then? Francis couldn't believe the hypocrisy his mother spewed at him day in and day out. Francis's mother turned to his father, this time with real tears in her eyes, although neither of the men felt they were coming from a genuine place. Do you see this? How did we manage to raise such an insolent son? He has zero respect for his elders. With that, Francis's mother collapsed into his father's arms, crying and shaking. Francis's father rolled his eyes, then looked at Francis with a sympathetic look. Francis, please, just go to Paris for your mother. It clearly means a lot to her. Francis watched his parents for a moment as he weighed his options. He knew deep down that there was no getting out of this. He let out a long, audible sigh. Fine. I'll go to stupid Paris if it's that big of a deal, he mumbled. Immediately, his mother stood straight up and her crying completely stopped. Oh, thank you, Francie. I'll have Brunhilde email you the itinerary, and she'll be happy to pack your bags for you so you don't have to eat into your studying time. Once they were gone, Francis let out a loud groan and turned back to his computer. His life was so unfair. Out in the hallway, Francis's parents whispered as they walked towards their own room. You don't think Francis will act like a brat when he's in Paris, do you? His mother wondered aloud. It's imperative that he make a good impression on Royal Perry, or else the entire purpose of his visit is ruined. Francis's father shrugged. We'll just have to hope for the best. Meanwhile, Olivia was just on her way home from school when she suddenly received a call from Chris Jones. She felt her heart flutter as soon as she saw his name flash across the screen of her phone. What is wrong with me? Olivia thought to herself. I'm a girl who came back to life and literally has powers now. How is it that some boy can suddenly make me feel out of control? I've got to get myself together. Olivia took a deep breath to steady herself before answering her phone. Hello? What are you doing right now? Chris asked excitedly on the other end. Who is this? Olivia asked, partly to tease him and partly to keep him on his toes. Very funny. Chris scoffed on the other end. Listen, I haven't gotten to see you since I visited you in the hospital and we were... Chris cleared his throat. Interrupted. Yes, I remember. Olivia's face went hot as she remembered Chris leaning in to kiss her just as her schoolmates had burst through the door of her hospital room. It had been embarrassing, to say the least. I want to see you. Can you meet me at Washington Square Park? Chris asked. Now? Olivia checked the watch on her wrist. It was still late afternoon and there was plenty of time left in her day. Yes, now, Chris repeated in a mocking tone. Olivia prickled slightly. What is this about, Chris? I have homework to do. It's a surprise, Chris explained. Just please say yes. Olivia could practically hear Chris smile through the phone, causing the corners of her lips to involuntarily turn upward. Fine, Olivia answered finally. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Olivia hung up the phone before Chris could respond. She hated thinking that she was the kind of girl who would change her plans at the drop of a hat just for a boy. But she also knew deep down that there was almost nothing she wouldn't do for Chris Jones. Olivia had arrived to Washington Square Park a few minutes earlier than she had thought, and Chris was nowhere to be found. She texted him asking where he was, and he had answered that he was on his way. But Olivia found herself growing more and more impatient with every passing moment. It was also starting to get chillier in the evenings, and Olivia pulled her jacket tightly around herself. Suddenly, she felt a pair of leather-gloved hands cover her eyes. Olivia tried not to panic. She steadied her breathing and channeled her energy, readying herself to use her powers if necessary. But then she smelled a familiar scent, a cologne that somehow smelled like all of her favorite places. "Guess who?" Olivia immediately recognized Chris Jones' voice as he whispered in her ear. The feeling of his lips as they brushed her ear sent a kaleidoscope of butterflies straight to her stomach. She reached up, pulling Chris's hands from her eyes and turning to face him. A goofy, love-struck grin stuck to her face. Chris raised an eyebrow at the look Olivia was giving him, and she immediately caught herself, quickly looking down at her watch. "You're late," Olivia snapped, embarrassed by her unusual display of affection. But it was too late. Chris had seen the look, and now he was grinning at her with an impish look in his eyes. "I'm sorry I'm 1 whole minute late," Chris teased her. "But thank you for coming all the way downtown to meet me." "What are you doing here anyway? I'm freezing," Olivia pouted. "Well, I can help with that." Chris pulled Olivia into him, wrapping his arms around her to warm her. Pressed against his soft wool coat, Olivia was glad that Chris couldn't see her face because she was finding it harder and harder to hide her smile around him. "We won't be outside for long," Chris continued on as he readjusted his stance so that he was next to Olivia, his arm draped over her shoulder. "Because I am taking you on a tour of NYU." Olivia looked up at Chris. Thanks, but I'm already signed up for college tours with Millie and Lena." "This is not that kind of tour," Chris chuckled. "I'm taking you on the Chris Jones tour of NYU. You're going to be so impressed you'll be applying to NYU early decision." Olivia shook her head and laughed. "Okay, tour guide, lead the way." Chris excitedly grabbed Olivia's hand and pulled her through the park towards the main campus. Olivia smiled as Chris already began pointing out some of his favorite features of the campus. But as she looked around, she couldn't help but think about her past life. In her other life, Olivia had been desperate to attend NYU, alongside her best friend, Pamela Cox. But due to all of the bullying she had received during her time at Marshall, Olivia had hated school in that version of her life, and her grades reflected that. Somehow Pamela had convinced Olivia to apply only to NYU, with no backup schools, probably knowing that there was no chance Olivia would get in. Olivia could still remember being at the Marshall School the day college acceptance letters were sent out. Pamela waved her NYU acceptance around like it was a golden ticket to the rest of her life, even knowing Olivia had been rejected. Olivia had spent the rest of the day crying in the bathroom, wishing she could just go home, but knowing that if she did, she would have to face Rachel and Monica and their inevitable cruelty. Olivia shook her head, trying to clear the memories out of her mind. She squeezed Chris's hand tightly as they made their way towards his favorite library on campus. Maybe this time things could really be different, Olivia thought to herself. Maybe I could have the college experience I always wanted. Across town, Lena had begun to spiral as Francis had suddenly gone idle in the game they were playing together. "Was it something I said?" she asked Millie nervously. "No, I think everything you've said so far is exactly what any teenage boy would love to hear," Millie assured her friend. But Lena wasn't sure. She had no way of knowing that Francis had been interrupted by his parents, leaving his computer's screensaver to activate and unintentionally logging him out of the game. Lena was about to log off herself when suddenly, a familiar username caught Lena's eye. Francis had logged back on. For a split second, her heart rate increased. But instead of reaching out, she noticed he quickly ducked behind an in-game building. Was he trying to avoid her? Why hadn't he replied to her most recent messages? And why was he suddenly acting so avoidant? Was she too forward? The game became a backdrop to her internal debate. But just as she was getting lost in thought, a new player, Greatest Knife Master, entered her immediate vicinity in the game's Windbell Pavilion. As soon as Lena spotted Greatest Knife Master on the server, she sucked her teeth in annoyance. "Oh, look who it is," she said sarcastically, nudging Millie with her elbow. "Mr. Gaming God himself." Millie chuckled, glancing at the screen. "You think he logged on just to challenge you?" Lena rolled her eyes. "Who knows? He probably thinks he's the best thing to ever happen to this game." But despite the in-game action, Lena's gaze kept drifting back to her chat with Francis. She couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. Why hadn't he replied? The unanswered questions gnawed at her. In a moment of vulnerability, Lena typed out another message to Francis, her fingers hesitating over the keyboard before she hit send. "Hey, did I send too many messages earlier? Just wondering." She leaned back, the weight of her second message weighing heavily on her. She glanced at Millie, her face a mix of embarrassment and frustration. "Oh, why did I just do that?" she groaned. "Now I probably seem even more desperate." Millie put an arm around her friend. "Don't overthink it. He'll reply when he's ready. Focus on the game and kicking Greatest Knife Master's butt." The familiar ping of a message notification filled Lena's room. She quickly snapped her gaze to the screen, her heart skipping a beat when she saw Francis's username. "Francis. Hey, sorry I didn't get back to you sooner. No, you didn't send too many messages, promise. Just had a rough conversation with my parents." Her anxiety from before melting away. She quickly typed back, "Do you want to talk about it? I'm here to listen." For a moment, the typing bubble appeared, making Lena's heart race. Then it disappeared. Lena bit her lip, waiting, the weight of the silence growing. When it disappeared again, she held her breath. "Francis. Thanks, I appreciate it. Just don't want to get into it right now, but hey, I liked all your questions." Lena's cheeks flushed a vibrant pink, her heart fluttering wildly. "Oh my gosh, Millie, look. He used a winky face!" Millie exclaimed, playfully nudging Lena. Lena's gaming notifications buzzed, singling another incoming message. This time, it was from Greatest Knife Master. Both Lena and Millie exchanged a confused glance before reading it. "Do you wish to form an alliance with the mighty Greatest Knife Master?" Before Lena could even process the message, another one from Francis flashed on her screen. "Hey, the gaming god reached out to me about teaming up. Did he reach out to you too? What's he up to?" Lena grinned as she typed back, "Yep, maybe he needs us mortals to boost his divine gaming stats." The two continued back and forth, crafting an imaginary world where Greatest Knife Master ruled as the hilariously inflated king of vanity. Amid their exchange, another brass message from Greatest Knife Master intruded. "How dare you mortals ignore a gaming god like me? Are you going to work with me after the weapons drop or not?" Millie shook her head, whispering, "This guy's super intense." Lena smirked, firing off a response. "Why would a gaming god like you want to play with us mere mortals? Feeling lonely up there?" Lena leaned back in her chair, a broad grin on her face. "It's so fun strategizing and joking with Francis." Millie smirked, nudging Lena. "Sounds like you're enjoying your time with your boyfriend." Lena rolled her eyes, pushing Millie playfully. "Oh, hush, you're just being silly." But even as she said it, a warm, happy feeling spread through Lena's chest. She really did enjoy these moments with Francis. As Lena was lost in her giddiness about Francis, she received another message. Francis's tone turned serious. "On a real note," he typed, "I genuinely don't think we should join forces with Greatest Knife Master. He's a selfish player. I've played with him before. He always has ulterior motives. I think he's trying to trap us somehow." Lena's eyebrows knitted together in confusion. "Trap us? But why?" Lena leaned back, thinking. Why would Greatest Knife Master want to trap them? Especially when he was already known as one of the best players in the game. It doesn't make sense. Why trap us? There are other players he could team up with. Millie, who'd been eavesdropping on the conversation, interjected. Maybe he's threatened by you two, especially since you guys have been climbing up the ranks. Lena sighed, rubbing her temples. He's just awful. I'm tempted to ignore him and hope he goes away. Just as they were in the middle of their conversation, a typing notification popped up. Greatest Knife Master was composing another message. The trio waited in suspense, wondering what the self-proclaimed gaming god had to say this time. Lena, Francis, and Millie stared at the game interface, watching the ellipses in the chat window indicate that Greatest Knife Master was still typing. After what felt like minutes, his message finally appeared. I've seen what you guys are capable of. You're both formidable players with impressive weaponry. Would you want to work together as a team to take down the Black Widow? Lena's eyes widened and she looked over at Millie. The Black Widow was one of the most notorious villains in the game, known for being nearly unbeatable. Even Lena had struggled against her in previous encounters when she played under her old avatar. Francis was the first to respond privately to Lena. Did he just offer us an alliance to beat the Black Widow? Do we trust him? Lena bit her lip, thinking. After a moment, she sent a reply to Francis. He might be onto something. If we use him to get more and better weapons, it could give us an advantage. Francis's response came swiftly. But is it worth it? Teaming up with him? He's unpredictable and I don't want to risk losing our progress. Lena smirked, her confidence shining through her words. We're better than Greatest Knife Master on his best day. Together we can handle him, no matter what. From her position nearby, Millie let out a chuckle. Look at you two, acting all unstoppable together. Are you guys going to be a power couple? Lena rolled her eyes, but her cheeks flushed a faint pink. Oh, hush, we're strategizing, not whatever you're thinking. Millie wriggled her eyebrows, clearly enjoying her teasing. Sure thing, lovebird, strategize away. Lena shook her head, a smirk playing on her lips. Before Lena could respond to Millie's playful teasing, another message from Francis popped up on her screen. I genuinely like being your teammate, so I'll do this alliance thing for you, Francis wrote. Lena's cheeks warmed and she felt a rush of unexpected joy. Her fingers hesitated above the keys as she tried to find the right words to respond. However, before she could type out a reply, Greatest Knife Master chimed in with an impatient message. So, mortals, do we have a deal? Lena, gathering her confidence, quickly typed back, Yes, we have a deal. With these new weapons and our skills, we'll be unstoppable together. Francis typed to Lena. Can't wait to use these on the Knife Master himself later. You ready? Lena felt her face heat up again. Yeah, ready whenever you are. Millie shot her a teasing look, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Blushing again? My, Francis really does have an effect on you. Lena feigned annoyance, shoving Millie playfully. I'm just excited about playing. You play the game every day, you never blush. Millie laughed. Back at the NYU campus, Chris had just taken Olivia to his favorite cafe, where he told her he liked to come every time it rains for a cappuccino. They ordered their drinks and sat right in the window, so they could people watch all of the characters who inhabited the West Village. Olivia was having so much fun with Chris. At some point, she had completely let down her guard without even realizing it. She hadn't even flinched when Chris reached across the table to gently wipe away some foam that remained on her lip from her latte. Now, as she gazed into Chris's eyes, Olivia realized that she was feeling something she had never felt before. Security. After a moment of staring deep into Chris's eyes, Olivia quickly looked down at her cup, her cheeks bright red. So, where to next? Olivia asked. Well, I took you to the library, the language department, my favorite paper goods store, the best ramen spot in the city, and the first bar I ever went to. I'd say that pretty much wraps up the Chris Jones tour. Chris smirked as he tried to read Olivia's expression. Was there something else you wanted to see? I thought, Olivia said, suddenly becoming very shy. I thought that maybe you could show me your place. Chris practically choked on his cappuccino when he heard Olivia ask to see his place. You want to see my apartment? A million thoughts raced through Chris's head. He wondered what she was expecting. Was Sven home right now? And most importantly, when was the last time the two of them had tidied up? Sven was Chris's best friend, but he wasn't exactly the neatest roommate. Yeah, I'd like to see how my fiancé lives before committing to an entire life together, Olivia teased. Any hesitation Chris was feeling melted then. Hearing Olivia refer to their future life together made Chris weak at the knees. Okay then, let's go. Chris pushed away from the table and stood, holding a hand out for Olivia. Back at Lena and Millie's, Lena was still engrossed in her gaming, or more accurately, she was engrossed in the flirty messages she and Francis continued to send one another. As Lena continued to play, she received a private message from Francis. Okay, between you and me, I can't wait to put Mr. Ego Master behind us. Lena playfully typed, same. But it's kind of been fun with the teasing, right? Or maybe it's just the company I'm keeping. Francis smirked as he messaged, You mean me or all of these people we're crushing in the game? Lena chuckled, Of course I mean you. You're the only person I like talking to on this game. Millie grinned from ear to ear as she read the private messages. Oh my God, Lena, just make it official already. Lena flustered. Make what official? Millie raised an eyebrow. You and Francis. It's like watching a rom-com but with more swords and dragons. Lena struggled to focus on the game as she replied, It's complicated. I like him, sure, but being someone's girlfriend? That's a big step, Mill. Besides, maybe he likes the virtual me, but not the real me. Millie rolled her eyes playfully. Oh, I doubt that, Lena. He clearly has a crush on you. You got this. Lena shook her head, unable to think about all the feelings swirling around Francis. Of course, chatting with him throughout the game made her heart flutter. But it was just because they were having fun playing the game, right? As they advanced, they found a safe spot to plan their next move. Lena was the strategist, analyzing the patterns of the enemies, while Francis provided the brute force, slashing his way through. Greatest Knife Master, ever the wild card, preferred to wing it, often diving headfirst into danger. Then it was time for their ultimate challenge, the Black Widow. Lena and Francis messaged simultaneously. This is it. But when the Black Widow emerged, it wasn't what they expected. It was massive, its legs stretched out, casting ominous shadows. But now its presence was overwhelming. Before they could strategize, a rumbling echoed through the game. The Black Widow, with its colossal form, began to retreat, and instead emerged an even more imposing creature, far more terrifying and powerful than anything they'd encountered. Francis's message came through, breathless in its urgency. Gamer Bunny Girl, I think the Black Widow was just the bait. This is the real villain. As they walked down a quiet West Village street, the mood between Olivia and Chris shifted. While only moments ago they had been playfully teasing one another, now they walked silently, hands in their pockets. Chris cleared his throat. So I don't know if Sven is home or not. Olivia chirped, I'd love to see Sven. It's been too long. She was desperate to break the awkward tension between them now, and she knew that adding Sven to the mix would certainly lighten the atmosphere. They walked another half a block before Chris stopped in front of a sleek, modern-looking building. This is it, he announced, smiling politely at Olivia as he held the door to the lobby open for her. They stepped into the elevator, and as soon as the doors closed, Olivia felt the pressure begin to mount. Olivia had not meant to put her and Chris in a situation where they would possibly be alone together, and so close to Chris's bed. But at the same time, Olivia wasn't entirely sure that she didn't want to be in that situation. After all, she had been through this once before. She had even been engaged in her past life. But there was something about Chris Jones that made her stomach flip and her heart flutter in a way that she had never experienced. The elevator doors opened and Chris led Olivia out into the hall. He let out an audible breath when he saw Sven's umbrella leaning up against the door to their apartment. "Looks like you got your wish," he grinned at Olivia. "Sven's home." Olivia had made a real effort to try to never read Chris Jones' thoughts. But even without her mind-reading powers, she had a sneaking suspicion that he was feeling just as nervous about being alone with Olivia as she had been. Chris turned the key in his apartment door and pushed it open. "Honey, I'm home," Chris sang out. Olivia and Chris stepped into the apartment and were immediately met with a sight that made their jaws drop. Shit. Olivia heard Sven whispering frantically before she was able to take in the entire scene. "Hey, guys." Sven addressed Olivia and Chris as casually as possible, while he and the girl he had just been making out with on the couch frantically searched for their discarded shirts. Olivia quickly turned around, trying to give Sven and his guests some privacy. "I didn't know you'd be home so early," Sven said, sounding slightly out of breath. "This is Laura." "Hi," the girl spat out, clearly embarrassed by the situation. "Right," Sven grinned sheepishly at Chris. "Well, we're just going to head into my room for a little bit." Sven ushered Laura away, poking at her playfully as she giggled and swatted his hands away. As soon as the door closed, the heavy awkwardness from before once again settled over Olivia and Chris. "So, this is it." Chris held his arms out, showing off the apartment. Olivia looked around, taking it in. It was a beautiful space, surprisingly tasteful for two college-aged boys. Of course, there were some telltale signs that young man lived there. Empty chip bags littered the coffee table. The TV was set up with a very expensive-looking gaming system, and there was a small basketball hoop that had been drilled into one of the walls above a painting that looked suspiciously like a real Picasso. "It's actually really nice, Chris." Olivia smiled as she continued looking around. "Actually?" Chris teased. "Well, I don't know how much of this is you and how much is Sven." Olivia teased back, grateful to get back to their playful banter. "Please, Sven is a slob," Chris scoffed. "If you don't believe me, look at my room." Chris stopped himself then, but Olivia cracked a small smile. "Okay, show me your room then." Chris led Olivia to his bedroom, waiting anxiously by the door as she surveyed the space. "Well, you're right. You're definitely the neat roommate," Olivia said as she looked into Chris's closet, which was organized by color. "In fact, you might be a little OCD." Chris laughed and stepped further inside, watching Olivia as she moved around the space. She paused in front of a full-length mirror. Chris had two photographs taped up in the corner of the mirror. One was an old photo, creased down the middle, of a baby Chris, no older than 3 or 4, laughing in the arms of a kind-looking woman. "My mom," Chris said softly as he stepped behind Olivia. "She was beautiful," Olivia murmured. She switched her gaze to Chris, watching as his face softened as he looked at the photo of his mother. Olivia felt her heart ache for him. Then she noticed the other photo. It was the photo Danny Wilson had taken of her for the campus model competition. "You bought one of these?" Olivia turned to Chris in surprise. "Of course I did." Chris smirked at Olivia. "I love this photo of you. You look so happy." Chris glanced back up at the photo of Olivia and smiled. "I look at it every morning right before I leave. Nothing makes me happier than to imagine you as you are in this photo." Olivia felt her cheeks flush and the butterflies returned to her stomach. She angled her body so that she was facing Chris fully now, taking a small step forward to lessen the gap between them. "Thank you for today," Olivia said, her voice suddenly very small as her mind raced with the possibilities of this moment. "It's been a while since I've had so much fun." Chris reached out and tentatively placed his hands on her hips. "Anytime." The corners of his mouth turned up slightly when he realized Olivia wasn't pulling away from him like she usually would. Olivia looked up at Chris, her heart beating out of her chest. She tilted her chin slightly, reaching up on her toes to press her lips slightly against his. Chris returned the kiss gently, moving cautiously as if trying not to spook a wild animal. Olivia pulled Chris in closer, opening her mouth slightly to encourage him. Olivia could feel Chris's heartbeat speed up as his tongue danced across her bottom lip. She felt her want for him increase as the feeling she had been tamping down this entire time came bubbling up to the surface. Almost instinctively, Olivia felt herself speed up, moving against Chris's body as she ran her hands up the muscles in his back, the nape of his neck, her fingers finding themselves tangling in his hair. She bit down on his lip and felt him instantly react, pressing his body tighter against hers. Suddenly, they heard a loud, almost cartoonish moan, clearly belonging to Sven, come from the other side of the wall. Olivia and Chris both stopped and turned toward the noise. Then they looked at each other and burst into laughter. After a moment, they quieted, trying to catch their breath. Olivia looked up at Chris, studying his face. "Chris," Olivia whispered, "I think we should slow down." Olivia could see his raw desire for her still flash behind his eyes, but he stepped back from her and smiled. "Okay, let's slow down." "It's not that I don't want to," Olivia continued. I'm not ready yet." Olivia thought back to her previous life with Mark DeLillo. She remembered how awful she had felt after being with him. She had wanted things to be special, but Mark had rushed her, not taking the time to make her feel safe or comfortable. Olivia shuddered at the memory. "It's okay," Chris whispered. "I want every experience we have to be as perfect as possible, for both of us." Chris leaned down and kissed Olivia on the top of her head. "Thank you." Olivia smiled and nuzzled her face into Chris's chest. She knew that with Chris, whenever she was ready, it would be special. Uptown, Francis and Lena both sat hunched over their computers, their fingers tense as they got ready to face off with the final villain. As soon as the final boss appeared, Lena's finger flew across the keyboard as she delivered one swift attack after the next. "Hell yes!" Francis shouted out loud in his room as he watched the mysterious gamer bunny girl deliver one blow after the next. He knew it was crazy to admit, but he felt like he was falling in love with this girl already. He had never met a girl who was this good at gaming. "Okay, it's time. Let's make our move," Gamer Bunny Girl typed to the group. Francis took a deep breath as he got into position between Gamer Bunny Girl and Greatest Knife Master. He hovered his fingers over the buttons, ready to go. But just as he was about to pull the trigger, Greatest Knife Master jumped in front of them, blocking their attack. "What the hell?" Lena screamed at her computer. "Why would he do that?" Millie shrieked. "Doesn't he want to destroy the final villain as well?" Lena groaned. "Of course he does, but he doesn't want to share the secret prize with us." It was all making sense to Lena now. "I think we need to get rid of this guy. What do you think?" Lena typed out the private message and sent it directly to Francis. Behind his computer, Francis hesitated for a moment, but this wasn't the first time Francis had come up against this Greatest Knife Master, and every time he was unsure what the player's intentions were. "Okay, let's go for it," Francis typed back. At first it was simple. They continued to fight alongside Greatest Knife Master as the final villain became weaker and weaker. But as time went on, the three players also lost more and more of their own hit points. Finally, when they were all almost out of life force, and the final villain was beginning to fade, Gamer Bunny Girl sent him a private message. "Okay, now." Francis and Lena turned their characters around at this moment and plunged their swords directly through the heart of Greatest Knife Master, causing him to immediately fall to his knees and begin to fade away out of the game. On the other side of the world, a handsome-looking boy with delicate fingers cursed his computer. "What? I'm dead?" He squinted his eyes at the screen as he muttered cuss words under his breath. "I know this Francis Poole already. I've seen him in the game many times," the boy thought to himself. But who was that Gamer Bunny Girl? The boy immediately started Googling, trying to find information on this player, but there was nothing. "It's as if she appeared out of thin air," the boy thought. "But I saw the way she played. There's no way this is someone new to gaming. I'll find out who she is, and she'll pay for what she did to me." Just then a soft knocking was heard on the boy's bedroom door. "What?" the boy shouted towards the door, his focus still remaining on his computer, trying to research this mysterious gamer. The door opened gingerly behind him, and a nervous-looking maid poked her head in. "Excuse me, Mr. Perry, but your father requests your presence in the kitchen." "Tell him I'm busy," the boy demanded, never acknowledging the maid with even a glance. The maid cowered at the young man's tone. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Perry, but the elder Mr. Perry said that if I don't bring you back with me, he'll come do it himself." The maid didn't need to continue for the boy to understand what his father would do if he had to be the one to drag his son out of his room. The boy swallowed, weighing his options. He knew whatever his father wanted from him in the kitchen would be far less worse than the punishment he would have to endure if he stayed. "Fine," the boy muttered, turning back to his computer. "Tell him I'll be there in a minute." The maid bowed her head, then rushed away, glad to be dismissed from the little tyrant. The boy sighed as he once again looked over the little information he was able to drag up in his search for Gamer Bunny Girl. "I'm going to find you if it's the last thing I do," the boy promised himself, "or my name isn't Carlton Perry." This weekend was the weekend Adam Reed had promised to take his students out for celebratory pizza for their good work in the play. Originally, they had been meant to go directly after the play ended, but since all the drama with Olivia and her flu had occurred, they had to reschedule. Now that she was feeling completely healed, Olivia was excited to finally be able to celebrate her accomplishments in directing their vision of Little Red Riding Hood. She had gone out shopping the day before and had bought herself an entirely new outfit to wear for today. She had also decided to stop at Sephora and stock up on some beauty products she had been sorely lacking before. In her old life, Olivia had never learned the proper way to wear makeup. She had always chosen shades that she believed made her eyes pop, but in reality were not her color at all. In that life, she had chosen garish shades of purples and blues that made her look like a circus clown. But in this life, she felt she was truly learning how to highlight her natural beauty, using all natural shades of makeup that she had seen the more tasteful women of Manhattan use. Olivia found herself actually enjoying putting on makeup for the first time. Now it felt like a small way to pamper herself, rather than a way to hide herself behind a different facade. She remembered how Pamela, her supposed best friend, who had actually betrayed her in the end, used to encourage her to put on heavier and heavier makeup. Pamela used to have no problem pointing out Olivia's problem areas and showing her how she could apply makeup to fix them. Now Olivia realized there was nothing to fix but her own attitude towards herself. Looking in the mirror now, Olivia couldn't help but smile. She really was a pretty girl, and the fact that she was so happy in this life only helped to highlight her beauty. Olivia thought about how Pamela used her to buy expensive products, then claimed the colors or the consistency of the products didn't work with Olivia's complexion, convincing Olivia to give Pamela the products instead. Olivia, of course, now realized it had been Pamela's plan all along to procure these products for herself, tricking Olivia as usual. Thinking back to the amount of money Olivia had spent on items eventually just given to Pamela, she cringed. Then a thought occurred to her. Olivia had spent an equally large amount, if not more, on the vintage luxury products she bought when first moving into the Johnson mansion. All of those bags and belts and jackets and pairs of shoes were just sitting there in the mansion still, their value growing every day. When Olivia had left the mansion, these items were the last thing on her mind. Instead, she just wanted to leave as quickly as she could. But now that she thought about it more, she realized what a mistake she had made. She hated thinking of Monica and Rachel having access to all of that luxury. She shuddered to think what they might do with it if they were able to get their hands on everything. But now was not the time to return to the mansion. Perhaps naively, Olivia was still holding out hope for her parents' relationship. She still had dreams of the three of them happily living in the Johnson mansion, her rightful home, and the home her mother so deserved to live in. Now that Michael had made the divorce to Rachel official, It was just a matter of time before Victoria saw that Michael had changed and that he really was serious about their future together. Olivia finished applying her lipstick, a shade that was just slightly pinker than nude, and puckered her lips in the mirror, giggling at herself. Just then, her eyes caught a calendar hanging on the wall behind her in the mirror. "Oh, crap!" Olivia exclaimed when she realized the date. How could it already be this close to exams? The days were rushing by, and Olivia had been so busy enjoying her life, she had completely forgotten to study. Although Olivia had been an average student in her past life and didn't care too much how well she did in high school, this time around, she knew that the better grades she received, the higher her status would be at Marshall. It was much easier to win over friends and influence her fellow classmates if she was in the top percentile of students. No one would listen to someone they believed to be stupid. Olivia had been so wrapped up in everything good in her life, but seeing how little time she had left in order to secure a passing grade in the exams, all of the dangers in this life came crashing back into her mind. Now she thought more about Pamela. Not about how she treated her in her past life, but about the threat she still presented in this one. It had been a week since she had seen or heard anything about Pamela. Since transferring back to Marshall, Pamela's attendance had been erratic at best. Of course, no one else seemed to notice. And even Olivia found herself thinking less and less about Pamela each day. But now it occurred to her that Pamela's sporadic attendance did seem slightly suspicious. That, coupled with the fact that Mark DeLillo kept popping up in this life, made her stomach turn. She couldn't believe he had actually had the gall to show up to see her at the hospital. He had to know that his presence was unwelcome there. And yet he continued to try to force his way into Olivia's world, no matter how clear she made it that he had no business there. Olivia's phone chimed with a text message, bringing her back to the reality of the day. It was a group chat with Millie and Lena. They were letting her know that they had just arrived at her building and would wait for her in the lobby. Olivia let out a breath, releasing all of the negative thoughts in her head, and smiled at herself one more time in the mirror. Right now, she looked good. She had 2 amazing best friends, and she was going to have a fun day with her classmates. Downstairs in the lobby, Lena and Millie gossiped and giggled as they waited for Olivia. When the elevator door opened and Olivia stepped out, both of the girls looked at her in awe. Lena even let out a whistle, indicating that Olivia looked great. "Wow, Liv, you look so pretty," Millie gushed. She was glad to see her friend recovered from her illness and looking better than ever. "Yeah, you really do," Lena added. "Not that you don't always, of course, but today there's something else. You've got the je ne sais quoi about you." Olivia tutted and gave them a small smile. "Oh, stop it, I just put on a little makeup. I still look exactly the same." "Well, whatever you did, it is working for you." Lena poked Olivia in the rib, teasing her. Then the 3 girls exited the lobby, arms linked as they made their way down the sunny street to meet their classmates at the pizza restaurant. When the girls arrived at the restaurant, they found most of their classmates were already there, huddled in the entryway, looking concerned. "What's going on?" Millie asked, her eyebrows knitting together. "Why aren't you guys seated already?" "There's a problem with the reservation, apparently," one of the students answered, cocking his chin towards the window. The girls looked through and saw their teacher, Adam Reed, standing at the host stand, arguing emphatically with the maitre d'. "Let's see what's going on." Olivia didn't even wait for her friends to respond before pushing open the door to the restaurant and sidling up to the host stand to join Adam and the few students who were trying to help his case. "But I booked the party room a week ago," Olivia heard Adam try to explain to the stone-faced maitre d'. "I'm sorry, sir, but we have no such reservation," the man answered bluntly, clearly having repeated himself multiple times at this point. Sam Feinstein, who had been standing next to Adam during this exchange, spoke up now. "Excuse me, sir, but my father is a regular of this restaurant, and he will be telling everyone in his line of business not to dine here anymore if you don't let us sit." The maitre d' sniffed at Sam, then looked back down at his reservation book. "I am terribly sorry," the man said, without an ounce of remorse in his voice. But we don't have a reservation for you, and there's nothing I can do at this time. Olivia looked at Adam now, and her heart sank seeing the disappointment on his face. I just wanted to do something nice for my students, she heard him think as she dipped into his thoughts. They work so hard on Little Red Riding Hood, and exams are about to start. They really deserve a break. Hearing this, Olivia felt a fire ignite within herself. She turned her attention to the maitre d'. Sir, if you don't mind me asking, is the party room available today? The maitre d' looked down his nose at Olivia. He was getting tired of having to explain himself to children. It is not a question of whether or not the room is available, young miss. A reservation was not made, and it is our policy, as a restaurant group, that we do not allow parties of your size to dine with us without a reservation. He said this in his most condescending tone ever, causing the hairs on Olivia's neck to stand. But I did make a reservation, Adam insisted yet again. He pulled out his phone, rummaging through his emails to find the proof. He held the phone up, practically shoving it in the face of the maitre d'. See, here it is. Reservation for a party of 20 today at noon. The maitre d' refused to even look at the phone. Sir, as I said before, unfortunately, we do not have a reservation under your name for today's dining. But I'm showing you proof that I made a reservation. Adam was practically spitting at this point. He was both upset and embarrassed that he was letting his students down like this. And to be humiliated in front of them by this haughty maitre d' was just icing on the cake. Olivia looked around the restaurant for a moment. It was unusually slow for a Saturday lunchtime, and she saw that many of the waiters and busboys simply milled around, trying to find busy work to do. What is this guy's problem? Olivia wondered to herself. The restaurant can clearly accommodate a party of our size, and it's obvious Adam did make a reservation in the correct way. So what is really going on? Olivia decided to use this moment to listen in to the innermost thoughts of this cranky maitre d'. She focused her attention as the students around continued to huff and fuss over the rude behavior they were receiving. These insolent children. Olivia heard the maitre d' thinking to himself. I'm so sick of working on the Upper East Side and having to deal with the spoiled brats that come in and out every day. There's no way I'm going to allow these loud teens to sully the reputation of the restaurant. Olivia grimaced. She knew this man was lying about not having the reservation in his system. She hated people like him, who looked at her and her friends as if they were below him. She knew if she kept listening to his thoughts, she would eventually figure out a way to get them the reservation they rightly had. And then Olivia heard the maitre d' think something she couldn't believe. Olivia was using all of her focus and determination to listen in to the thoughts of the snarky maitre d', who was currently discriminating against her and her classmates for their age. She had already heard him admit in his mind that he was pretending to not have the reservation because he didn't want kids eating in the restaurant. But what she heard next was more valuable than anything she could have ever imagined. The maitre d' went from thinking about how to get this class full of ungrateful teens out of the restaurant to thinking about how many hours he had left in his shift, to then thinking about what he planned to do that night after leaving work. And it was what he had in store for his evening that made Olivia's jaw drop. As soon as I get out of here, I'll call my wife and tell her I was put on the later shift as well. Olivia heard the man thinking. Then I can rush to the Astor Hotel and have hours uninterrupted with Tiffany. Olivia continued listening for a moment as the man went through the logistics of his affair, from how he met Tiffany, a regular of the restaurant who had tipped him a little more than necessary one night, all the way down to the tiniest details, such as the room number he'd be meeting her in later that day. Olivia smiled devilishly as she stepped back up to the maitre d' stand. Excuse me, sir, but I really think you've made a mistake with our reservation. Olivia began before being rudely cut off by the man. I have told you before, and I will tell you again, we have no reservation on our end. I wish I could help you all in some way, but my hands are tied on this matter." The maitre d' smiled at Olivia, causing her stomach to churn. "Actually, I think you can help us." Olivia grinned smugly at the man, folding her arms across her chest. The maitre d' raised an eyebrow at Olivia. "And how exactly would I be able to help you, young miss?" "Regardless of our reservation status, which, despite what you say, I am sure you have written down somewhere, the restaurant is practically dead at the moment. I am certain you could easily accommodate a party of our size right away." "And why on earth would I do that?" The maitre d' sneered down his nose at Olivia. "I've already explained to you the rules we uphold at this restaurant. This isn't Chuck E. Cheese, although I have a feeling that might suit you all much better." At this, Olivia heard her classmates mutter in anger, but she just smirked, ready to pull the trigger. She leaned in closer to the maitre d', lowering her voice so only he would be able to hear. "I think that actually you will want to accommodate us so that no one finds out about your little rendezvous later at the Astor Hotel." The maitre d's entire body seized up in shock. He had been so careful not to mention his affair with anyone, and yet here was this girl, who couldn't have been more than 17, threatening him with his biggest secret. Unless, of course, she didn't know. He always met Tiffany at the Astor, but they never entered or left together. Perhaps this girl had once seen him in the lobby and was just trying to intimidate him without knowing what she was talking about. The maitre d' straightened up, trying to regain some of his composure. He put on his best poker face as he addressed the girl. "I'm sorry, miss, but I'm afraid I have no idea what you are referring to. I will not be at the Astor Hotel later, and my whereabouts are frankly none of your business." "No, I suppose you're right. It really isn't my business, is it?" Olivia fake pouted for effect. "I guess what you do after you get off work is between you and God. Well, and Tiffany, of course." Now a jolt went down the man's spine. There was no doubt this girl knew everything now. But how? Olivia smiled sweetly up at the man. She had raised her voice now so that everyone in the 10-foot radius of the host stand would be able to hear. "Who's Tiffany?" Sam Feinstein asked loudly, causing the maitre d' to look around nervously at his fellow coworkers. Of course, many people who worked at the restaurant knew who Tiffany was. As one of their most frequent regulars, and the wife to one of their most valued, aka richest, customers, Tiffany was very well known by all of the staff. Luckily, seeing the confused expressions in some of the waitstaff's faces, it appeared they hadn't heard enough to form any kind of theories on what might be happening. Olivia was now growing impatient. They had already been waiting a while, and she was getting hungry. She decided the maitre d' might need a little more motivation to get them seated. "Sir, we're all very hungry, and we'd very much like to be seated now. So, unless you'd like to keep playing this game, I suggest you escort us to the party room." Olivia stared down the man, using all the confidence she could muster. "How dare you?" the maitre d' began, but Olivia held up a hand to interrupt him. "You think I won't tell your loved ones? I could easily call them up and let them know if they want to see you tonight, they should make their way to the Astor Hotel. Room 307, right?" Olivia glared at the man. She had no patience for hypocrites, and that is exactly what this man was. The man opened and closed his mouth, unable to form words. How could it be that this child knew the deepest and darkest of all of his secrets? Could it be that Tiffany had been blabbing around town? Perhaps this girl was a peer of Tiffany's children. Perhaps that meant Tiffany's children knew. And what if they told her husband? If that happened, the maitre d' knew he would certainly be fired and barred from working in any fine dining establishment in the city ever again. He would have to work in fast food. He hadn't attended the premier hospitality programs in the entire world just to end up slinging burgers for people too lazy to even step foot out of their cars. He had no choice. The maitre d' gathered up a stack of menus, staring daggers at Olivia, then took a deep breath through his nose and smiled at Adam Reed. "I'm sorry for the mix, sir. Won't you and your party follow me, and we will get you seated." The maitre d' walked towards the private party room, leaving Adam stunned. He looked at Olivia, who shrugged. A smile stuck to her face. He gave her an appreciative thumbs up, then announced to the class, "Okay, everyone, who's hungry?" The class let out a cheer as they filed through the restaurant towards the back room. As soon as the group of children sat at the large banquet tables, the maitre d' excused himself from the floor to run to the back room where his personal cell phone was. He pulled it out of his bag and immediately sent a text message to Tiffany. "Tonight is canceled. I can't keep seeing you." 3 dots appeared in the message thread almost immediately, followed by Tiffany's response in all caps. "What do you mean?" She began calling him then, but the maitre d' ignored the call, slipping the phone back into his bag, then sighing and re-entering the restaurant floor as if nothing had ever happened. Inside the private party room of the restaurant, Adam Reed's students sat down at the large table, joking and laughing, finally getting the chance to enjoy themselves the way Adam had hoped they would. Of course, Sam Feinstein, being the gossip that he was, sat next to Olivia, still trying to get her to dish out the drama that had occurred between her and the maitre d'. "What did you say to him? He looked like he was about to be sick." Sam loved secrets and was dying to find out another one. "Oh, nothing." Olivia busied herself with the salad in front of her. "I just told him he had made a mistake with our reservation." "Oh, bull," Sam said, smirking. He really admired Olivia's moxie. "You did something, bribery, blackmail, I don't know, but I know you used some sort of cunning tactic to get him to give us this room. And who the hell's Tiffany?" Olivia smirked at Sam. She was amused by how desperately he wanted to know everyone's business, even that of strangers. "Just eat your salad, Sam. It's delicious." Sam snorted as he picked up the leafy greens on his plate. "They probably all took turns spitting in it after whatever it is you said." By the time they finished their meal and Adam had paid for everything, the sun was already beginning to go down. They had had such a lovely time at lunch, and they ended up staying hours longer than expected. And even still, they didn't want to say goodbye just yet. The group lingered on the street in front of the restaurant, trying to decide what to do next. "Well, I should head out," Adam said reluctantly. "But you all should do something fun. It's your last week before exams start. Have a good time." The class thanked Adam and he waved goodbye, turning to make his way down Fifth Avenue alone. There was a part of him that wanted to join his class wherever they ended up, but he knew once again that it was not the place of a teacher to be hanging out with his students after hours. The group went back to discussing where they might go next to continue the evening. "What about the batting cages?" Zach Colston suggested. "No way, that's not fun for everyone," Lena protested. "Oh, how about the arcade?" If we can't play real games, there's no way we're playing fake ones," Zach replied. Just then, Olivia had an idea. "I know, let's do karaoke." The class murmured their agreement. Karaoke was always fun, and if they got a private room, those who didn't want to sing were still free to sit and chat while the others took turns performing. "That sounds perfect," Millie agreed. "I know a great spot that's pretty close to here. We could easily walk." So it was settled, and the group began to make their way to Millie's favorite karaoke bar. When the group arrived at the karaoke bar, they found the place was already packed. The girl who was taking reservations shook her head sadly when she saw the large group of students walk in. "Hey guys, so sorry, but we don't have any private karaoke rooms left." The girl was much nicer than the maitre d' from the restaurant, and looking around at all the people milling about and waiting for a spot to open up, they had to believe her. "Bummer," Lena pouted. She loved karaoke and rarely got the opportunity to do it with so many friends at once. She was really looking forward to the idea. "Sorry, guys," Olivia shrugged to her classmates. "I guess karaoke wasn't the best idea after all." "What should we do now?" Millie asked, looking to her fellow classmates for suggestions. She also felt partially responsible for the letdown, seeing as it was her favorite karaoke place they were currently standing in. "I guess we could try somewhere else," Sam Feinstein suggested. There's another karaoke bar near St. Mark's that's always less crowded. That's 'cause it sucks, Zach Colston interjected. But the group decided they had no other choice if they wanted to continue hanging out together. Just as they turned to exit the karaoke bar, Olivia heard a voice that made her heart stop. "Big sister, is that you?"